Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one little line item in a company's financial statements. A number that honestly, most people just gloss right over. But trust me, hidden inside that number is a whole story. A story about quality, honesty, and sometimes some really massive deception.
What if I told you that one line could actually predict a corporate crisis, or maybe even hide a multi-year lie? It's not some magic trick. It's all right there in something called the warranty provision. And once you learn how to read it, you'll never look at a company the same way again.
I mean, just look at the classic case of Dell. For 5 years straight, that's 20 quarters in a row, they looked like the perfect company, hitting their earnings targets every single time, like clockwork. But the secret sauce? It wasn't just great computers. It was a clever little accounting trick buried deep in their warranty reserves that let them basically dial in their profits whenever they needed to.
And we're not talking about a few spare pennies here. At its peak, this hidden reserve made up a whopping 72% of Dell's quarterly operating income. 72%. It just goes to show you how something that sounds so boring, an accounting entry, can actually become the engine for a huge corporate deception, painting this totally false picture of stability that fooled investors for years.
Okay, so how on earth is something like that even possible? Well, it all starts with a simple fact. In the world of accounting, not all warranties are created equal. The rules actually draw a line in the sand, creating two very different kinds of promises a company can make. Let's break them down.
All right, think of it like this. There's a fork in the road. On one path, you have your assurance-type warranties. That's just the basic promise that the thing you bought actually works, that it's not a lemon. But on the other path, you have service-type warranties. That's the extra stuff they sell you, like an extended warranty. How you account for these two is like night and day. And right there, in that difference, is where all the strategy and all the games can begin.
So an assurance-type warranty, that's the standard, default promise. It's really just a cost of doing business. If a company sells you a car, they have to stand behind it. So accountants look at that promise and say, okay, we need to estimate the future cost of this. And they book that as a liability, an expense, right when the sale happens. Simple enough.
But a service-type warranty, now that's a whole different animal. You know that extended warranty they always ask if you want at checkout? That's what we're talking about. You're basically buying a second product, a promise of future help. So the company can't just take all that cash and call it revenue on day one. Nope. They have to spread it out over the life of the warranty. It's not a cost to them. It's a completely separate stream of income.
And this is where things get really interesting, because it all comes down to a really tough question. How does a company predict the future? Trying to estimate how many products are going to break and exactly what it'll cost to fix them, well, it's part science, part art, and a whole lot of human judgment.
The old school way was to just look in the rearview mirror using historical averages. But the problem is, we humans get stuck. There's this cognitive bias called anchoring. We latch onto old numbers even when a new product is totally different. But now machine learning is just blowing that old method out of the water. It can sift through tons of real-time data and spot patterns a human brain could never, ever see.
And the difference is just huge. We're talking about machine learning models that can slash estimation errors by up to 70% compared to a human expert. They're faster, they adapt on the fly, and they don't have those human biases that lead to big mistakes or, provide the perfect cover to cook the books. So the tools are out there to get this right. The real question is, are companies actually using them?
Okay, so now that we know all this, how can we actually use it? How can you and I spot the red flags in a financial statement? Let's put together a little analyst's toolkit.
It's actually pretty straightforward. You only need to watch 3 key ratios. First is the accrual rate. That's what they think they're going to spend. Second, the claims rate. That's what they're actually spending. And third is the reserve capacity, which just tells you how many months' worth of claims they could cover with what they have saved up right now.
But with these numbers, context is absolutely everything. For instance, in the global auto industry, the average accrual rate is about 2.52%. So if you suddenly see a car company setting aside only 1%, or maybe a huge 5%, that's a massive signal. It means something big has changed. Either their quality just got way better, or way worse, or maybe management is up to something.
And you can see how these ratios tell a story when you compare two different companies. Look at GM. They keep about 22 months' worth of warranty claims in their reserve. Makes sense, right? Cars last a long time. Then you look at a company like HP, and they only keep about 11 months' worth. Now, that's not good or bad, it just reflects their business. Computers have a shorter shelf life. The real red flag pops up when a company's numbers suddenly look way different from its own past, or from everyone else in its industry.
Which brings us to the big question, the final verdict. When you see a company with a huge, or just plain weird, warranty reserve, is it a sign that they're being super careful and prudent, or is it a tool for deception? Well, the tricky part is, it can be both.
This is where we get into something called cookie jar accounting. It's a classic move, and regulators are always on the lookout for it. Here's how it works. When business is great, a company intentionally sets aside too much money for warranties. It makes their profits look a little lower, sure, but it builds up this secret stash, this cookie jar. Then, when a bad quarter hits, they just reach into that cookie jar, pull out some of that reserve, and poof, their earnings magically look great again.
And let's be crystal clear about this. This isn't some gray area or some aggressive accounting tactic. It's flat out wrong. It violates one of the most fundamental rules of accounting, which is matching your costs to your sales. The whole point is to make the company look way more stable and predictable than it really is, and that's just misleading.
But, and this is a really cool twist, it's not always a red flag. There's this idea called signaling theory. It suggests that sometimes a company with a high warranty provision is actually sending a powerful signal to the market. They're basically saying, hey, look at us. We know our products are so good, so reliable, that we can afford to make this huge promise. We're that confident.
If you want to see just how high the stakes are today, in the real world, you don't have to look any further than Ford. Just recently, in 2024, something that seemed so small, a faulty rearview camera, turned into an absolute financial nightmare for them.
The financial hit was just massive, and it was fast. We're talking $800 million in extra warranty costs in just one quarter. This wasn't some slow leak. It was like a dam bursting, a catastrophic failure that hammered their bottom line and showed everybody just how vulnerable even a giant company can be when these complex systems go wrong.
So you might be asking, why so expensive? It's just a camera, right? Well, no, it wasn't just about the hardware. See, a single software bug on a platform they used in millions of cars spread like wildfire. Their testing missed it because it only showed up under specific conditions, like on a cold day. And to make it all worse, their supply chain is so complex that a patch from one company was actually causing new problems somewhere else. The risks today are all tangled together, and technology just makes them bigger.
So when you boil it all down, that warranty provision line item, it's so much more than just a number on a spreadsheet. You could almost say it's a measure of a company's character. It tells you if they truly understand the things they make. It tells you if they're being honest with you, the investor. And it tells you if they're actually ready for what's coming next.
So I'll leave you with this question. In a world of incredibly complex financial reports and corporate jargon, could it be that the simplest promise of all, the promise to just stand by your product, is actually the truest and most revealing measure of a company's integrity? What do you think?